Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Flagrant Talk Sports Podcast. It's me, Isaiah, solo dolo today in a NBA draft video. The Celtics finally won their championship. This is a video I've kind of been waiting to make until we had the results. Congrats to the Celtics, obviously my team. It was awesome to get to be able to celebrate that. But as GM Brad Stevens said, it's cool we get to have our moment, but it's NBA draft time, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down kind of this thing that's been irking me this entire draft process, which is that this draft class is bad. It doesn't have any stars. It's a crappy class. It's the worst draft class of all time. The best player in this draft class wouldn't even land you Lou Dort. These are all real things that analysts, that people have said about this class. It's been talked about all season, especially during the college season, coming off of the Wembanyama draft last year. And it's rubbed me the wrong way. So in this video, I'm going to break down why I think the draft is being viewed this way and why I think ultimately people are wrong. Before we get into the video, though, please leave a like, please subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the draft class, and little announcement, a little something exciting. If you remember, if you've been around, Moses and I have been doing the channel for a little over a year now. And last year, we decided to live stream the NBA draft to react to it. And we will be doing that again this year. We will be live streaming the first round on Flagrant Talk. So if you want to pop in, you're looking for a place to talk hoops, you just want to kind of see our reactions. Maybe there's a big, shock that happens. You want to see how Moses and I are reacting. That's where we'll be hanging out. We hope to see you there. We would love to see you there. Get your popcorn ready, set ESPN up, and have us rolling in the background how we do it. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started with the video. The first reason I believe that this draft class is being overly scrutinized is that there is no clear cut superstar. Now, when I say this, that does not mean that any of these players in this draft class deserve to be called an incoming superstar, that we should give them this title of, hey, they're going to come into the league and dominate day one. I'm not saying that you have to view it like that. However, we have become so accustomed to draft classes. Maybe Wembanyama is a little bit of an outlier because we knew he was going to be a generational prospect, and in year one, he proved it. All of the amazing things we assumed about Wembanyama, he didn't just prove to be true. He proved honestly to be better than advertised. Um, but in a traditional year, we normally have a really good sense of a number one overall pick of, hey, this is going to be the guy. And sometimes we have a sense of the top 3 to 5 picks, depending on the year. And in this year, less than 10 days out, we still don't know who the Atlanta Hawks are going to take at number one. And I feel like that has led to a lot of the discourse that there is no superstar. So inherently, this draft class is bad. That a class that doesn't have at least a clear cut number one or a top three that is very, very strong, that all of a sudden it's just bad. This class is bad. And I don't think that is fair. I don't think that is honestly a good assessment of a class. I think it is so easy in when talking about this class, because it's all we've seen all year, is that it's bad, it's the worst of all time, and it is what it is. And that's it. There's no analysis on these players. There's no, hey, well, why do we think that? Why are we just counting out all of these late teens to very early 20-year-olds and saying, hey, none of them are going to materialize? None of them. It's ridiculous. I am a Bill Simmons fan. Obviously, I think being a Celtics fan, that bond is there where I could see if you're a part of a different fandom, you care a little less about what Simmons has to say. But alluding to what I said earlier, when they talked about how bad this draft class is, they said that if the Oklahoma City Thunder got a call from the Hawks about receiving the number 1 overall pick for Lou Dort straight across, that the Thunder would say no and that it's a guaranteed loss. All respect to Lou Dort, who is a incredible defensive player, brings so much to that Thunder team, especially because of how young they are. What are we talking about? Why are we discrediting an entire class of 58 players who are going to hear their name selected, plus anyone who happens to become undrafted and fight for a spot on a roster? Why are we just immediately discrediting this group of young players? Like, why are we putting on their jacket that they are incapable of doing anything special? Like, you're saying the upside, the best case scenario for these players isn't even an all-star? Like, it just it's ludicrous. It makes no sense to me. Um, when we look back at this class in 10, 15 years from now, is there a guaranteed star? No. It's not like that with any draft class. It wasn't even a guarantee when Wembanyama got drafted last year. But to just say that before we've seen where they get selected, how they're going to work into a team, how they're going to scheme them and find ways to use them, how their bodies physically are going to change, how they're going to work on their jump shots to become better defensive players, all of those things, and say that it's done. They're not good enough. They'll never be good enough. There's no star in this class. I already know this is just low IQ basketball talk. It is. It takes no skill to just crap on players and then say, "Oh yeah, they're never going to materialize into anything." So, first and foremost, I feel like the biggest reason is there's no clear-cut star. There is no guy where everyone, all these normies know who it is. And I think that is the first and biggest reason as to why this class is being slandered the way that they are. To transition now to my next point, the next biggest critique is that because there is no star, all of these guys are just going to be role players. They'll just be, 3-and-D guys, or they'll be hey, this is a solid 10-and-10 big who can, protect the cup and get you some lobs, things like that. A player like Alex Sarr, who is the favorite and probably my favorite to go number 1 to the Hawks, being a big man. These are the things that are being said about these players. They are role players, that even these top 5, top 10 picks, role players. That's their max. There's no all NBA guys, there's no perennial all-stars, there's no anything special in this draft class. Maybe that's true. But even if we want to live in a hypothetical situation where all of these players are role players, none of them go any further than that. Their ceiling is a role player for a team. They'll never be a top 3 option on a contender, but they can be the 4th or 5th. Well, I have breaking news for a lot of people. 90% of the NBA is role players. It's that simple. 3-and-D wings are a hot commodity. Every team in the association, from the Boston Celtics, who just won a title, to the Detroit Pistons or the Washington Wizards or the Charlotte Hornets, some of those teams that you may look at as bottom feeders are still looking for those 3-and-D wings who can come in and make an impact. When you look across the association, every team, right? Almost every team. Let's round up. Say they have every team has 1 star. And then every team in the playoffs has 2. We'll give every team that made the postseason this year 2 stars on their team. That leaves a 80 to 90% rest of the league is role players. And you look at a player like a Derek White, prime example. Will he ever make an all NBA team? Will he ever be a perennial all-star? Hell, I think his best chance was this season and he didn't make it. So I think projecting forward, I don't see why he'd get voted in to be an all-star potentially next year. He is a fundamental and key piece in the Celtics winning a title. They can't win a title without a Drew Holiday, without a Derek White. Those are quintessential parts of their team. A Derek Lively for the Dallas Mavericks. You look at the impact that he made as a rookie, being a double-double big who protected the rim very well, was just a solid piece in their playoff run, a great lob threat. And yeah, role players, you hear it and you're like, it's not sexy though. It's not fun to talk about the Derek Whites. It's not fun to talk about those guys. I want to talk about the superstars. I want to talk about the Luka Doncic, the Kyrie Irving, the Nikola Jokic, all of those guys. That's what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about, the Michael Porter Jr. I don't want to talk about Aaron Gordon. That just sounds delusional, right? Because every team that has ever won a championship has relied also on role players to help get them to where they are. So even in a hypothetical situation where all of these guys turn into average role players, they're guys who stay around the league for a while, have 10 to 12, 13-year careers, never really become all-stars, all NBA guys, but hey, these guys contributed to winning. I just can't imagine being a bad thing. So having the biggest critique on them being that there is no clear-cut superstar and most of these guys are role players, so is most of the league. So I just find it, again, it's easy to throw that out there. It is so easy to throw that out there. But even in a spot where that is true, where your assessment of that is true, it's not the end of the world. That does not equate to a draft class where nobody good is going to come out of this, where no star is going to come out of this class. So I think, honestly, those two things tie hand in hand as to the 1A, 1B of why this class is slandered and why I think the way we're talking about it is completely wrong. Going to the next point, it has to be talked about, right? Bronny James. If you, I hold so much sympathy for Bronny. It would be so difficult to be the child of arguably the greatest player to ever pick up a basketball player. And not just that, but a player who is still active and a top 2 player on the Los Angeles Lakers, right? So when I say I have sympathy for a Bronny, what I mean by that is he went through a terrible health situation, one that I hope no person has to experience in their lifetime, going into cardiac arrest, having his not just basketball career in jeopardy, but his life, genuinely his life in jeopardy, the psychological thing that does to you. On top of that, he goes and plays for a USC school that disappoints, period. This was a team that was looked at to be a top 3, 4 seed in last year's preseason with Isaiah Collier, with some of these guys who were in this year's draft class. Didn't pan out, missed the tournament entirely and finished below 500 at that. It's a total failure of a season. no matter how you want to shake it up. So you have all of those things happen. And then he clearly was not himself. This is a kid, right? That's the important thing to remember. With all of that out of the way, the ESPNs of the world, all of these big platforms are talking about, oh, well, Bronny, what if he gets picked here? Oh, the most bet person to go number one is Bronny James. Let's have a 20-minute segment on how crazy that is. Instead of highlighting all of these great players who either played in this year in college basketball or overseas, instead of highlighting how incredible Adulton Connect is, his story, his traveling from Northern Colorado to Tennessee and them being the team that they were and him just being a straight bucket getter. Instead of watching tape on a Rob Dillingham, a guy who I think, if you don't really care about college basketball, is going to make fans really fall in love with his game at the next level because he's explosive, he's fun, he brings that high intensity, and he's just like what seems to be a cool kid, right? So you have this fixation on talking about Bronny all of the time. And it's just insufferable. And then it leads to people hating on Bronny, even though he is not the one doing anything, because it's a constant thing that is shoved in basketball fans' faces of, hey, let's not talk about Alex Sarr. Let's talk about Bronny James. Oh, he did a workout for this team. Oh, Rich Paul says he won't work out for any other team than the Lakers. Oh, all of these things that just like make you kind of roll your eyes because as a basketball fan, you don't care. And I wish Bronny nothing but the best. I hope that he is able to go into the league to show, because I really do think a Gary Harris type player is what I expect from Bronny. And I mean that that is not meant to be disrespectful at all. But I think if he can model his game like that, if he can be a guy who is really strong on the defensive end, able to buy into a role, likely off the bench, right? Then he can have a nice 10, 15-year career. I really think that's in the cards for him. But we're spending all of this time fixated in talking about a likely second round pick and probably mid to late second round pick at that, instead of highlighting all of these amazing players, especially the overseas players who casual basketball fans are not paying attention to. So I think one of the biggest reasons this draft class is being crapped on all the time is this fixation with Bronny. It's the media constantly wanting to talk about him and basketball fans not caring. And I think while it's kind of a smaller cliff note in this overarching discussion about this draft class, it's one that has to be included. So Bronny, wishing you nothing but the best. Truly mean that. It's unfair the way that they set you up to honestly be shit on for no valid reason, but it's playing a factor in the discourse about this year's draft class, undeniably. Um, and the final point that I have, the one I want to get to, this is where the GMs for your team, no matter what team you support, this is where the scouts for your team earn their money. It's easy. It is so easy. I could do it. If I was the San Antonio Spurs last year and had the first overall pick, to kick my feet up and go, nice. I'm drafting Victor Wembanyama. Sign it in. The moment we get the number one overall pick at the lottery, yeah, you can phone Wemby into San Antonio. Let's get him an apartment right now. Let's get him a crib. That doesn't take skill. And this isn't a knock on GMs or scouts at all, but it's this reality. This is fun. Your GM gets to make their money now. Hey, this is a draft class where people say there's no stars, there's nothing special. I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to draft this guy with the 23rd overall pick. And with that pick, I'm going to materialize a very solid player. And these fans and all of these talking heads are going to feel a type of way about the way they've been slandering some of these kids' names. So, this is where those GMs get to prove, hey, I'm one of the best executives in the league. This is where those scouts get to say, hey, all of my work overseas, all of my work scouting these different conferences in college basketball, attending these March Madness games, attending these conference tournaments, all of that work, I have found the diamond in the rough. I'm going to be the guy to deliver this incredible player to this franchise, and they're going to help us get over the hump. That's awesome. That's what makes sports, all sports, fun. But in a draft class where there's no clear cut one, it could go a variety of different ways. Hey, there's a reality where the Hawks trade out of this pick. We just don't know. And I think that makes a sense of uh, just excitement. You have no clue going into this draft how anything is going to pan out. That's fun. To me, at least, I find that to be an exciting thing because, yeah, it's awesome to have a draft like last year where in some order, the number one overall pick is going to be Wemby. You know that for a fact. And then 2 and 3 are either going to be Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson. I know it. I know going into that draft class, we did videos on it, that is going to be how this pans out. This year, I can't say the same. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. So I understand this look because I think as basketball fans, we have been spoiled. We have seen some incredible draft classes. But I urge you to look into this class. Look into some of these players. Say, hey, Donovan Clingan might not end up being, by the time he retires, this 9-time All-Star. And he was, the second best player on a championship winning team when he gets drafted by the Chicago Bulls and all of this stuff. That might not happen. But I urge you to say, hey, Clingan can be without a doubt, a double double guy at the next level. And I honestly think he can do that rather quickly. And if that is his base and he can work on a jumper, he can work on knocking that three ball down, all of a sudden you have a great NBA player at the next level. And you could set up those scenarios for so many players in this class. So I felt honestly the motivation to film this video, even throughout this college basketball season, and now with the draft as close as it is, I implore you, take some time, look into these prospects. Don't just follow the herd of this class is terrible. Go come to your own conclusion because I promise you this class is going to be awesome. I really do. I truly believe that. Will we have a superstar? Only time will tell, but I'm rooting for these kids because I hope you come into this league, everyone drafted, anyone who gets undrafted and is trying to make it at the next level. Carry this. This is a chip. Let them know, hey, they were talking down on us. They said this. I I, I was the second overall pick, but in a normal draft class, I would have gone ninth. No, I'm gonna prove I was deserving of this pick, and I think we're in store for that. So that's the end of this video. I appreciate you tuning in. Please let me know some of your draft crushes. Let me know some of the guys you're excited to see at the next level that you're hoping your team selects. Let me know if you disagree. If you say, "Hey, this this draft class is buns, man. It's buns. People aren't lying." And here's why I think that. I'm always open to a discussion, and I think conversations like this irritate me because it's not a basketball discussion. It's, "Oh, I don't see a superstar, so this class sucks." It's it's low IQ talk that we're having. So I'm looking forward to the draft. Again, like I said at the start of the vid, Moses and I will both be streaming the NBA draft together. We're looking forward to it. The whole first round will be streaming. We might have some guests pop in. So let us know what you think. Song of the pod, because most times when I do these solo, I forget. All I Need by Wiki and Earl Sweatshirt. Incredible track. Love it. I appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you. And we will catch y'all in the next video.